You women, you take it for granted. You have this lifestyle, you have this certain way of teaching, of being, of giving over a chinuch, and you think it's like this everywhere. It's not. Not every frum child knows about their inner purity. Not every frum child thinks about their neshama ever. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's my honor, to say the least. Growing up, like all the little girls, I wanted to be a teacher. If you ask me, what are you going to be when you're going to be, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say a teacher. And I remember that day, I was sitting in class. I think it was 7th, 8th grade, elementary school still. And I raised my hand to ask a question. And the teacher looked at me and said, I once had a classmate like you. Let's just say she didn't end up so well. She went off the derech. And I remember the whole class was laughing, and I laughed along because it was hysterical, but really I just wanted the floor to open up and I just bury myself. And it was in that minute that I decided I am never being a teacher. I am never going to take the risk of possibly hurting a girl the way I was hurt in that moment. And I held on to that belief for years. I was sure it was righteous, it was responsible. But after a while, I started realizing, and especially in hindsight, that it wasn't a noble belief at all. It was just fear. It's interesting. One of the things that speak to me most of the Tanya that I started learning on my own a few years back, this piece about how we look at ourselves and our failures. Very often, we do something nice and we'll have this voice in our head that says, nah, that's not really you. You're just doing it because everyone's looking, or you're just doing it for whatever reason. But really, you're not such a nice person. Let's be real, And the Tanya tells us that our proper behavior is who we really are. And this voice in our head that's trying to be humble and trying to say, come on, that's not really you, that is the Yetzer Hara. That to me was just so mind-blowing. I think that's my favorite piece that literally changed my mind in the way I look at myself. And the same thing with this belief of teaching. I was so sure, I was actually being the responsible person here, by not teaching. I was actually looking at what you can do to a girl. But it took some maturity. And now looking around at this room, I know that you all are here and you all are doing what you're doing, not because it's easy or safe, not because you're oblivious, but because you truly value the connection and you're choosing to take that risk for the greater good. You all are doing what you're doing, not for the fame or the fortune. You're not doing it because you love hearing, is this being on the test? Will we be tested on this 47 times? But because you know what you bring to the table, you believe in these girls, and you believe in what you're doing. Now, ironically, while I didn't end up being a teacher in the traditional sense, I ended up being kind of a teacher, an unconventional one, you can say, sort of online. What I really do essentially is teach all day, if it's through writing, through speaking, through showing up on social media, creating videos. I really teach. I teach women how to create a more beautiful, meaningful life. And if you think that's easier, if you think that's safer or easier, oh my God, it's not. Actually, it's way easier to offend people when you're teaching on the internet. Literally, all you have to do is not show your mess, show a perfect kitchen, and then suddenly you're shaming women who don't always have a clean kitchen. Or share a healthy recipe and say that it's healthy and you're contributing to the toxic diet culture. Or call something healthy like I once did. I remember years ago when acai bowls were coming out and I said, I'm preparing a healthy breakfast and I want to share with you how to make this delicious acai bowl. You call that healthy? How much sugar is inside? I mean, look at all the fruit in there and on top, because I put like mangoes or strawberries on top. People really, really take these things to heart, just saying. So I'm not in a safe space at all. And by the way, it is healthy because what's my other option? Kukish cake. So it is very healthy. I started off in cooking, for those of you that don't know, so I do share a lot of recipes. And then I evolved as I grew as a person and I matured. And I saw that there's more to being a mom and a wife, more to being a good mom and a wife than just knowing how to make the best fish and the best challah. And as I myself learned all these different coping skills for just to maintain my own sanity, emotional health, I wanted to share that with women because I'm very passionate about sharing. I mean, I kind of like teaching in the way that I do it. So I had 2 cookbooks out, and this year I came out with this book, which is called The Anatomy of the Yenta. And it's about how to break the Yenta mold, embrace dignity, and create an elegant life. And it's a self-help memoir. In the book, I wrote a big part of my story, how I was bullied in school, the struggles that I had, how I was an outcast, how teachers just misunderstood me. I mean, I was called everything in school, from an apikoiris to chazerfleisch. I mean, really bad stuff. And I'll never forget. Oh, and don't worry, it's not a negative book at all. I'm just saying that's a piece of my journey. And then how I really had to nurse myself back to wholeness. And that's where really the Chabad piece came in, where they actually spoke about your neshama. And it just was like, I was just like so thirsty. And I didn't even realize it till I didn't, get this. And I'll never forget, Mushki read the book. Mushki, my dear friend, she told me, like, a lot of what... Oh, I just noticed I said Mushki. Like, Mushki, my dear friend, like in a room of like, I don't know how many Mushkis. Mushki Afse, Mushki Yiftach, Mushki Yiftach Hashem, I don't know how you call her. The duct tape lady, whatever, all her names. That's the Mushki that I was talking about. Okay. So she read my book, and I'm so honored that she is my friend, I think, right? And she's like, a lot of what you wrote, I just can't, I was thinking, like, if you grew up in the Chabad world, it would have been so different. And she told me, it made me feel so lucky to have had this experience of growing up in this lifestyle where questions are celebrated. Raizy, you would have been celebrated. And she told me this after I had, in the book, I referenced the Rebbe so many times and his work so many times. That really is what I want to talk to you about, because you women, you take it for granted. Like, you have this lifestyle, you have this certain way of teaching, of being, of giving over a chinuch, and you think it's like this everywhere. It's not. It's not a given. That's what I want to tell you. Not every frum child knows about their inner purity. Not every frum child thinks about their neshama ever. I have a whole chapter in the book called Who Do You Think You Are? Because that's the devil in my head that I grew up with. Like, who do you think you are? Who does she think she is? And of course, it's like if you're charging a lot, if you're very successful, but also like sometimes if you speak about, I don't know if you can understand this because I'm telling you, you come from a different world, but like if you speak about spiritual stuff too much, it's like, you think you're a Rebbitzin? Like, and I was too much. And I knew certain things I couldn't think about because definitely not talk about, because who do I think I am? I'm a Rebbitzin. And now you get why I connected so much to that piece. It's very interesting because no one wants to be like modern growing up, right? Like that's like a bad thing to be too modern. But we also didn't want to be like too much of a Rebbitzin. And if you talk too much about like spiritual stuff, it was like, and one thing I realized about Chabad women, no matter how they look, if they're more modern, if they're not modern, no one has an issue talking about spiritual stuff. They talk about the Rebbe with all their pride. They talk about their neshama. They talk about Chassidish, and they know what they're talking about. They actually know what they're talking about. And I've seen this on the full spectrum of every kind of Chabad woman I've met on social media or in person. And that to me was like so attractive and so beautiful. And I've express my admiration and awe for Chabad women so many times, and I'll do it again right here. Chabad women have a certain way of, you were raised that you can all be leaders, and that whatever kaichas you have, whatever talent you have a voice, you use it. That's what you were meant to do in this world. And it is just the most beautiful thing. You show up to this world ready to give. In order to give, you have to really know your own value. And a lot of different Chassidises, they look up at the Rebbe and they respect the Rebbe. And there's like a certain hierarchy. There's a certain, you want the Rebbe to daven for you. Everything is true in Chabad as well. But in Chabad, there's an extra level. You don't just want from the Rebbe. You want to be like the Rebbe. You literally want to look at him. What did he represent? And you want to try to emulate that. And that, to me, was just so inspiring. And I cannot stop to be inspired. It's not something that faded, ever. And to all of you teachers and mechanchos, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sparing so much heartache in young girls. You think you're walking into a classroom just the way you are, with your mindset, with your belief, and this is just normal. It's not. The children, the girls, the boys, they're picking up on this. They're picking up your belief in them. They're seeing your neshama, their neshama, because you're seeing your own neshama. And that is just the most beautiful thing in the world that you should never take for granted. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for showing up. I know it's not an easy job. Sometimes you feel invisible and you feel like there's just so much negative talk. But despite all of that, you're showing up. You're taking the risk. You're doing something that is very hard emotionally and physically because you value the work that you're doing and you see the neshama in every student. Thank you.